Theodore set the newspaper down and studied it closely. "You never mentioned this." "I didn't think I needed your permission," she replied, instantly regretting her sharp tone. "I'm sorry. I should have told you. It's just, the kids are waiting for me." To her surprise, Theodore's expression softened. "What center?" "The one in our official records on East 116th Street. You actually volunteer there?" His eyes were wide with genuine astonishment. "Of course. Did you think I made it up?" She poured her coffee with a mischievous tilt, savoring his bewilderment. "I've been teaching there every Friday for 2 years." Theodore glanced at his watch. "I have a meeting nearby at 2. Maybe I'll stop by afterward." Lily almost dropped her cup. "You want to visit my art class?" "It'll support our story," he said pragmatically, but something flickered in his eyes, something else entirely. "Besides, I'm curious to see how you teach." "All right. Prepare to get messy. Today we're making papier-mâché monsters." His face twisted in mock horror, and Lily couldn't help but laugh, a warm, genuine laugh that hung between them. "I'll bring a change of clothes," he said with a dry grin. Later that day, Lily was helping 10-year-old Miguel smear purple paint onto his three-eyed monster when she sensed a shift in the classroom. She turned and froze. There, in the doorway, stood Theodore, in a sharp suit that seemed simultaneously commanding and awkward amid the chaos of paint and paper. "Mr. H is here," announced Zoe, the perceptive 8-year-old who recognized him from a charity gala. The other kids stared, curious. "Class, this is Mr. Hartwell," Lily said, forcing an easy tone. "He's my husband." A chorus of laughter and astonished whispers filled the room. "You're married, Miss Lily?" Miguel asked skeptically. "To him?" "Yes, I am," she replied, catching Theodore's silent plea to play along. "Mr. Hartwell's foundation supports our art center." Theodore stepped forward, his businesslike demeanor softening as he spoke to the children. "I've heard wonderful things about your work. Miss Lily praises you all immensely." "Are you rich?" Zoe asked bluntly. "Zoe," Lily chided lightly. "It's okay," Theodore said calmly. "Yes, I'm wealthy, but at your age, I wasn't. I had to learn to work for it." "Can we see your monster, Mr. Lily's husband?" Miguel asked, holding up his creation. Theodore looked momentarily bewildered. "He means, can you make one too?" Lily explained, hiding her smile at his embarrassment. "Everyone in class makes a monster." She expected him to refuse. Instead, Theodore shrugged off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and approached the table. "What should I do first?" Over the next 40 minutes, Lily watched in astonishment as one of New York's most powerful businessmen sat cross-legged on the floor among children, carefully sculpting a remarkably detailed papier-mâché dragon. His focus was intense, his hands surprisingly deft, and his patience with the kids utterly unexpected. "You're really good at this," she murmured, kneeling beside him to help with one of the tricky wing details. "I used to build model airplanes with my father," he said, his voice soft with memory. "It's not that different." When the class ended, the children insisted Theodore place his dragon alongside theirs in next week's exhibition. He agreed with genuine warmth. "You were amazing with them," Lily said as they walked toward his waiting car. "I never thought I could connect with kids without scaring them." His tone was dry but unguarded. "You mean, you liked it," she corrected. "You looked happy." Theodore paused, opening the car door for her, a quiet tension lingering in the air, an unspoken promise that the story wasn't over yet. This was refreshing. These children see the world differently. No hidden agendas, no pretense. Unlike our world, where everything is calculated and carefully constructed, Lily mused, thinking about their own game. His eyes met hers. Exactly. On the drive back to the penthouse, Theodore's phone rang. It was Tanaka Sr. He had arrived a day early. "He wants to meet for tea tomorrow morning," Theodore said, hanging up. "Are you free?" "Of course," she replied, feeling the weight of the upcoming meeting. "What should I expect?" "Hiroshi is more traditional than his son. He'll be observing us closely." "No pressure," Lily said with a nervous laugh. "After all, the fate of your merger may hinge on whether a 72-year-old Japanese businessman believes we're madly in love." A small, confident smile tugged at Theodore's lips. "After today, with Tanaka and the kids, I'm confident in your abilities." That was A real compliment, Theodore Hartwell? Just an observation, he said, though the warmth in his eyes made her pulse quicken. The next morning, Lily chose a conservative yet elegant dress for tea with Hiroshi Tanaka. Theodore waited in the hall, flawless as always, though the tension in his shoulders betrayed his nerves. "You look perfect," he said as she appeared, his gaze lingering longer than usual, as if this wasn't just part of the plan. "Ready to meet your future father-in-law?" she teased, trying to ease the tension. "Business father-in-law," Theodore corrected with a smile. "Remember, Hiroshi values respect, tradition, and sincerity." "I can be respectful and traditional," Lily said. "But sincerity can be tricky when our entire life feels like a performance." Unexpectedly, Theodore took her hand. It was surprisingly warm. Not everything in this performance is pretend. Before she could process his words, they were on their way to the elegant hotel where Hiroshi Tanaka was staying. The old Japanese businessman awaited them in a private tea room, rising with graceful formality as they entered. His face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp, taking in every detail as he studied Lily, who walked alongside Theodore. "Hartwell, my son," he greeted with a slight bow, "and you must be his fiancée." "Mr. Tanaka, it's an honor to meet you," Lily replied with a small bow. "Thank you for inviting us." A flicker of approval crossed the old man's face at her gesture. "Please sit. I was curious to meet the woman who so suddenly captured Theodore's heart." The tea ceremony that followed was formal yet beautiful, with Hiroshi preparing the tea himself in traditional Japanese style. Lily remained respectful and quiet, answering only direct questions, aware that Theodore guided her through the unfamiliar ritual with subtle gestures. "Jonathan told me you're an artist," Hiroshi finally said, studying her over his tea. "Yes, sir. I mostly work in oils and mixed media." "And you teach children as well?" "Yes, I teach. Art gives them a voice when words cannot express everything." Hiroshi nodded thoughtfully. "My late wife was an art teacher. She believed that creative expression is the foundation of self-discovery." "A wise woman," Lily replied sincerely. "Yes," he turned to Theodore. "And what do you think of your wife's artistic pursuits?" "Business and art often see the world differently," Theodore said, his hand finding Lily's on the table. "Lily helps me see beyond spreadsheets and profits. Her perspective has been invaluable." The warmth in his voice surprised Lily as she turned to meet Theodore's gaze, an expression unmistakably genuine. "I understand," Hiroshi said, observing them closely, the silence between them charged with unspoken tension. "And you, my dear lady, what has life with a businessman taught you?" Hiroshi's question hung in the air. Lily paused, weighing her words carefully. "That assumptions can be deceiving," she replied. "Behind Theodore's business facade is someone genuinely committed to creating lasting, positive impact." Hiroshi's eyes narrowed slightly. "An observant wife. That's good." He set down his cup. "I must admit, Hartwell, when I first heard about your sudden wedding, I was concerned. In my experience, hasty decisions rarely end well." Theodore tensed beside her, but Hiroshi continued. "Yet, I also believe true connections aren't measured by time. My own wife and I realized our paths were meant to cross after a single encounter." He studied them both intently. "I see that same spark in your eyes when you look at each other. That brings me comfort." Relief washed over Lily, though a swirl of questions lingered in her mind. Were they really that convincing? Or was something real quietly emerging between them, something even Hiroshi could sense? As they prepared to leave, Hiroshi turned to Lily directly. "My daughter-in-law May suggested a ladies' lunch tomorrow. Will that work for you?" Hiding her surprise, Lily answered, "I'd be delighted." "Excellent. Theodore, we'll conclude the discussions Monday morning. I see no obstacles." In the car, Theodore exhaled deeply. "It couldn't have gone better. You were perfect." "He seems to have accepted us as a couple," Lily observed. "More importantly," Theodore replied, returning to business, "he's ready to move forward with the merger. Once the papers are signed Monday, the toughest part of our agreement will be behind us." A sudden reminder of their contractual ties cast a shadow over Lily. Right, the whole point of this disguise. Theodore looked at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. You have another meeting with May tomorrow. Will that be too much? Not at all. I like her. Lily hesitated. Though I'm not sure what ladies wear to lunch. Check your wardrobe when we get home, Theodore said with a knowing smile. Back at the penthouse, Lily discovered a curated collection of elegant outfits, perfectly suited to her taste yet impressive enough for any high-profile event. How did you, she began, finding Theodore in the corridor. I had my assistant consult a stylist, he explained. I thought you might need something suitable for public appearances. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. An awkward pause stretched between them, each unsure what to say, lingering in the corridor. I need to finish some work, Theodore finally said, but perhaps dinner later. We should discuss our next steps after the merger. All right, Lily agreed, though the thought of what lay ahead made her heart flutter unexpectedly. The next day's lunch with May turned out to be surprisingly intimate. Instead of the formal meeting Lily had expected, it was a cozy gathering. Just May and two of her close New York friends, both warm, accomplished women who welcomed Lily without judgment. We're thrilled Theodore has found someone, said Diana, a prestigious gallery curator. He's always been exceptional, but somewhat isolated. My husband says Theodore has changed, May added, sipping her tea. He's more present in conversations, less absorbed in work. Really? Lily asked, genuinely intrigued. Absolutely. Jonathan has known him for years, and the change is remarkable. May studied Lily closely. Love has a way of transforming people, doesn't it? Lily felt a twinge of guilt for the deception, especially since she had begun to genuinely like May. Relationships do change us, she replied carefully. You must join us at the exhibition opening next month, Diana said, steering the conversation. This gallery showcases the work of emerging artists. You might even want to submit your pieces for our spring exhibition. I would be thrilled, Lily stammered, caught off guard by the unexpected opportunity. Wonderful. I'll send the details to Theodore's office. When Lily returned to the penthouse, her mind was spinning. In just a few weeks, her life had shifted dramatically, from struggling art student to the wife of a billionaire, now receiving invitations from galleries that had never even glanced at her work before. She found Theodore in his home office, dressed unusually casual, a simple shirt with rolled-up sleeves, hair slightly tousled as if he'd run his hands through it multiple times. How was lunch? He asked, lifting his gaze from the computer. Surprisingly amazing, Lily replied. Diana Chen invited me to submit my work for her gallery's spring exhibition. Theodore's face lit up. Diana has exquisite taste. That's a significant opportunity. Yes, but Lily hesitated. It feels wrong to get such chances because of our arrangement rather than my art itself. Theodore paused, absorbing her words. Connections may open doors, Lily, but talent keeps them open. Diana wouldn't risk her reputation if she didn't believe in your work. His faith in her abilities struck her unexpectedly, a warmth that eased her nerves. Thank you for saying that, she murmured. I remember you saw my work before. I wouldn't have mentioned it to Diana if I didn't believe in your talent. You brought me up to her even before our arrangement, before we even began working together. I saw the potential in your city center exhibition. Lily studied him, realizing a new layer to their story. So you really noticed my art before you needed me for business reasons. A faint smile flickered across his face. Our staged story isn't entirely made up. The thought that Theodore had recognized her artistic value long before proposing this unusual arrangement reshaped how she viewed him and their relationship. I ordered dinner, he said, shifting the topic. Italian, from the place you mentioned liking. It should be here soon. The gesture, remembering a casual comment from days ago, touched Lily. Over dinner, Theodore was more relaxed than usual, sharing anecdotes from past business negotiations and asking genuine questions about her lunch with May. When they finished the tiramisu, he brought up the topic they'd both been skirting. Once the merger closes Monday, the most critical part of our agreement will be complete, he said evenly. But for appearances, we still need to maintain this marriage for the agreed year. Of course, Lily nodded, trying to match his businesslike tone despite the storm of emotions inside her. That was the deal. I know this arrangement limits your personal life. Theodore set down his fork. If you want more independence, say your own apartment, While keeping the public facade of our marriage, I can arrange it. Lily was caught off guard. You want me to move out? I want you to feel comfortable, he clarified. Our agreement requires a convincing public image, but not that you live under my roof 24/7. I see. Lily felt a sudden pang of unexpected pain at the idea. And would you prefer such an arrangement? Theodore studied her closely, his expression unreadable. I'm giving you the freedom, Lily. The choice is yours. Before she could respond, his phone rang, the unmistakable alert she had come to recognize, signaling an urgent matter in his company. He excused himself and left, leaving Lily alone with the whirlwind of thoughts spinning through her mind. Why did the very idea of freedom feel like a refusal to her? And why did the thought of leaving the penthouse, of walking away from Theodore, fill her with such strange, quiet sadness? She was lost in these questions when Theodore returned, his expression taut with seriousness. Sorry, he said, his voice tight. There's an urgent situation with our Asian markets. I need to get to the office. Of course, Lily replied, standing to clear the table. Go ahead. I'll manage, he said, pausing at the door. About what we discussed? That can wait, Lily interrupted gently. Deal with your crisis first. Theodore nodded, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes, and left, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts, wondering when their professional arrangement had started to tangle with real emotions and what she was supposed to do about it. Later, unable to sleep, Lily wandered into the art studio Theodore had set up for her. She stared at the blank canvas, pondering how truth and illusion had intertwined in their lives. On impulse, she began to paint, losing herself in the familiar rhythm of brushstrokes and colors. Hours slipped by unnoticed as she poured her turmoil and growing feelings onto the canvas. She didn't hear Theodore return. She didn't notice him standing in the doorway until she stepped back to examine her work. That's beautiful, he said softly. Lily spun around, startled. On the canvas, two figures faced each other across a narrow chasm, close enough to touch, yet separated by a translucent barrier that was starting to crack. I couldn't sleep, she said, though it was obvious. Neither could I, Theodore replied, stepping into the room, his gaze locked on the painting. Is this how you see us? Divided, but almost connecting? The directness of his question took her breath away. I'm not sure how I see us now, she admitted. It all started as a clear business arrangement, but now... He nudged her toward an answer, standing close enough that she could feel the faint scent of his cologne. Now I don't know what's real and what's just part of our performance. Their eyes met, unflinching. When you touch me in public, when you look at me across the table, I can't tell if it's calculated, or if sometimes it's real. Theodore was silent for a long moment, searching her gaze for an answer. Not everything was an act, Lily. Her heart skipped in that awkward, thrilling way. Which moments exactly? She asked, her voice trembling just slightly. Instead of answering with words, Theodore reached out slowly, brushing a streak of paint-stained hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her skin, a touch utterly unlike their staged public gestures. I think about you when we're apart, he whispered. I imagine your reactions to people I meet. It confuses me. Confuses you? Lily echoed, a faint laugh escaping her despite the tension. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. To her surprise, Theodore laughed, a genuine warm laugh, rare and unguarded. I'm not very good at this, am I? At what? At admitting you might really love your pretend wife. His expression softened, vulnerability seeping through the layers of his usual control. At admitting that some contracts have unexpected clauses, like developing real feelings when it was supposed to be purely business. That simple confession hung between them, shifting everything and nothing all at once. Lily stepped closer. I don't want my apartment, she said gently. In case you were wondering. A flash of relief crossed Theodore's face, quickly giving way to something warmer, more vulnerable than she had ever seen. I'm glad, he said, and the word carried a quiet, undeniable warmth. They stood in silence, wrapped in the sensation of their confessions, as if a soft snowfall had reshaped the landscape of their relationship, leaving it unfamiliar, uncharted, and thrilling. Finally, Theodore glanced at his watch. It's almost 4 a.m. We should probably... Yes, Lily agreed quickly. Monday's a big day. The merger. Right. But neither of them moved, both weighed down by the gravity of the moment. Finally, Theodore leaned in and kissed her forehead. It was nothing like the polished gestures they'd practiced for the public. It was simpler, yet infinitely more meaningful. "Good night, Lily," he said softly. "Good night, Theo," she whispered back, saying his name as if it belonged naturally on her lips. As they went to their separate rooms, Lily realized something. Somewhere between signing contracts and splatters of paint, between staged appearances and private confessions, she had done the one thing she warned herself against from the start. She had fallen for her fake husband, and judging by the look on Theodore's face as he left, she wasn't alone in crossing that line. Monday arrived with a tension that felt almost electric, a pivotal moment hanging in the air. Theodore left early for a meeting with Tanaka, looking every bit the confident CEO in his tailored suit. But their goodbye had changed. It carried a new softness. "Wish me luck," he said at the door. "You don't need luck," she replied with a smile. "But it's with you anyway." He slowed his steps, then leaned in to kiss her cheek. On all shores, private gesture, free from spectators or showmanship. That small moment told Lily everything about how their relationship had shifted. Alone in the penthouse, Lily felt restless, too unsettled to paint. Their early morning conversation had shifted something fundamental, leaving them in uncharted territory where pretense and reality blurred together. Just before noon, her phone buzzed. A message from Theodore. "Merger approved. Contract signed. Thank you." Simple words, yet loaded with significance. Now the real question remained. What happens next? Lily was lost in thought when Maggie appeared in the doorway. "Miss Lily, your brother is here." "Kevin!" Lily rushed to the foyer and found her younger brother looking awkward, out of place amidst the penthouse's luxury. "Surprise," he said with a half-smile. "Thought I'd check if your billionaire husband has you locked up." "Kevin!" She hugged him tightly. "What are you doing in New York?" "College orientation. Remember NYU?" He looked around, wide-eyed. "This is how the other half lives." Lily led him through the apartment, ending the tour in the kitchen where Maggie was preparing lunch. "Seriously, Lily," Kevin said when they were alone, "you marry this guy, and suddenly Dad's business problems vanish and I'm back at college." Lily hesitated, torn between protecting the secret of their arrangement and staying close to her brother. "It's complicated, Kev. Did he pressure you? Because if..." "No," she cut him off firmly. "It was my choice. Theodore was..." She searched for the word. "Kind." Kevin studied her face carefully. "You love him?" he asked in disbelief. "Really love him?" Heat flushed her cheeks. "Yes," she admitted, saying it aloud for the first time. "He's not what I expected." "So it's not just a weird arrangement?" Kevin pressed. Before Lily could answer, the elevator doors opened, and Theodore stepped into the apartment. He paused, taking in the scene. Lily and Kevin in the kitchen. "So you're Kevin," he said, extending a hand. "Theodore Hartwell." Kevin straightened, trying to look impressive despite the height difference. "So you're the guy who married my sister without really knowing her, huh?" "Kevin," Lily hissed. To her surprise, Theodore smiled, genuine, unguarded. "Fair point. Your sister is extraordinary. I consider myself lucky." The sincerity in his voice struck both siblings. "Did the deal go smoothly?" Lily asked, changing the topic. "Very well," Theodore relaxed, loosening his tie. Lily noticed the gesture. It was rare, a sign of his unusual ease. "I have a holiday dinner with Tanaka. I'd like to invite both of you." "We?" Kevin looked stunned. "You. Lily's family," Theodore said simply. "That makes you part of my family, too." The statement lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. This wasn't part of any arrangement, no performance required. This was Theodore genuinely reaching out to connect with the people who mattered to Lily. "Well, of course," Kevin said, struggling for words. "Thank you." That evening at dinner, Lily watched in quiet surprise as Theodore engaged Kevin with thoughtful questions about his college plans, even offering connections with professors, without pressure or expectation. The Tanakas were equally charming, treating Kevin as a guest of honor. "Your brother is wonderful," May Lily whispered. I see the same caring nature in him as in you. Thank you, Lily said warmly. He's always been the cleverest in our family. And yet Theodore can't take his eyes off you, May noted with a knowing smile. Even in silence, he's checking on you, watching you. That's not the behavior of someone who married for convenience. Lily felt her heart quicken at those words, especially when she caught Theodore's gaze across the table. His expression softened as their eyes met. Later that night, after saying goodbye to Kevin and promising to attend his orientation next week, Lily and Theodore found themselves alone in the penthouse elevator. "Thank you for including Kevin," she said sincerely. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Theodore replied. "He's important to you." The elevator doors opened at their floor, but neither moved. "Merger complete," Lily whispered. "The main goal of our arrangement, fulfilled." Theodore turned to her. "But we still have to maintain appearances," he said, though his tone suggested he was thinking far beyond their business deal. "Is that the only reason we continue?" she asked, summoning courage. Theodore stepped closer, his gaze locked on hers. "No," he said simply. "Not just that." He reached out, his fingers brushing her jawline gently. "When I proposed this arrangement, I expected it to be simple, a business deal that would benefit us both. And now," Lily whispered, "I realize the terms have changed. My feelings, they've complicated everything." "How exactly?" Instead of answering, Theodore leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was nothing like their public displays, tender, questioning, and achingly real. Lily responded without hesitation, her arms wrapping around his neck as the kiss deepened. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Theodore pressed his forehead to hers. "I don't want this to be just an arrangement, Lily. I want it to be real," joy exploded inside her. "It already is," she said softly. "It's been real for some time." The smile that lit up Theodore's face was worth every uncertain moment that had come before. He kissed her again with growing confidence and unguarded emotion. "I should probably warn you," Lily said as they finally entered the penthouse, hands still intertwined. "I'm giving up the emeralds," Theodore laughed, a sound, free and unrestrained. "They're yours, along with anything else you desire." "Only you," she said openly. "That's all I need." His expression grew serious. "I haven't been easy in love, Lily. I've spent years focused on business, proving my worth. I don't always know how to," he trailed off, "how to let people into my life." "And yet here we are," she said, squeezing his hand. "You've let me in more than you realize." Over the following weeks, their connection shifted from a staged arrangement to something far more genuine. Theodore began carving out time in his demanding schedule to attend Lily's art classes, occasionally joining her to work with the children. Lily, in turn, grew genuinely interested in Theodore's world, particularly his philanthropic work. They still attended New York's most glamorous social events as the city's most captivating couple. But now, the tender touches and lingering glances weren't calculated. They were natural expressions of growing affection. 6 months after their unusual beginning, Lily unveiled her first solo exhibition at Diana Chen Gallery. The show was a triumph, with critics praising her bold use of color and profound emotional depth. Theodore stood proudly by her side all evening, his hand rarely leaving the small of her back. "I have something for you," he said later that night as they returned to the penthouse, leading her into her studio. On the easel stood a painting she had created months ago, 2 silhouettes separated by a cracked barrier, now framed with care. "Our beginning," Theodore whispered. "I had it framed to remind us of where we started." "And where are we now?" Lily asked, turning into his embrace. "Exactly where we're meant to be." He kissed her gently. "I love you, Lily Hartwell. Not for your looks, not for business, because you showed me what truly matters beyond success and achievements." "I love you too," she replied, her words flowing effortlessly because now they were real. "Who would have thought signing that absurd contract would lead us here?" "Perhaps it's better called a merger," Theodore said with a grin. "Well, this merger is forever," Lily declared, pulling him close. "No exit clauses, no deadlines." "Wouldn't have it any other way," he agreed, sealing the promise with a kiss. Exactly 1 year after signing the contract, they renewed their vows. This time, surrounded by family and friends, with genuine promises instead of business terms, guided by love, not agreements. Kevin, now thriving at New York University, served as the best man. "So, it really was a contract wedding," he whispered to Theodore during the reception. "The best business decision I've ever made," Theodore replied, watching Lily laugh with May Tanaka across the room. But love, that's the best personal decision." As they danced their first dance as a true married couple, Lily looked up at her husband, a man no longer the cold businessman she had first met, but someone who had learned to balance ambition with heart, success with true connection. "Any regrets?" she asked softly. Theodore shook his head, holding her close. "Only that I didn't include a clause for you to keep painting monsters with us and the kids. Those Thursday afternoon sessions are the highlight of my week." Lily laughed, resting her head against his chest. "Who needs a contract when you have reality?" And as Theodore twirled her across the dance floor, they both knew with certainty that what had begun as a calculated business arrangement had transformed into something neither of them could have predicted. But now they cherished it in their hearts as a priceless treasure, a love story as extraordinary as it was authentic, proof that the most unexpected beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings. 5 years later, the annual Hartwell Foundation Gala had become a cornerstone of Manhattan's social calendar, but this year felt different. Theodore stood at the podium, Lily at his side. "Tonight, we celebrate the opening of the Hartwell Arts Center for Children," he announced, "a place where young artists can find their voices, no matter the circumstances." Lily Morgan stared at the contract sprawled across the oak desk, her chestnut hair falling forward to obscure her shocked expression. At 23, she had expected a lot from life, finishing art school, maybe a trip to Paris, but a proposal to marry a complete stranger for $10 million, that was never part of her plan. "Is this a joke?" she asked, lifting her gaze to the stern lawyer whose expression hadn't changed in the 15 minutes she'd been sitting in this intimidating downtown office. "Mr. Hartwell doesn't joke when it comes to business," replied Mrs. Patterson, the silver-haired attorney whose tailored suit probably cost more than Lily's entire wardrobe. "He's offering a solution to your family's financial problems." "Problems?" Lily tried to mask the panic rising in her chest. That word was far too mild for the disaster they were facing. Just 2 weeks ago, her father had admitted that his business partner had drained their accounts and vanished, leaving a mountain of debt. The family home, her younger brother's college fund, even her mother's jewelry collection, everything could be lost if they didn't secure money fast. "And all I have to do is marry a stranger who could be my father?" Lily's voice trembled, barely controlled. "Mr. Theodore Hartwell is 48, Mrs. Patterson corrected, adjusting her glasses. "Not old by any means. He simply needs a wife for business appearances for 1 year. No romance, separate bedrooms, complete discretion. After 12 months, you divorce amicably. Your family's debts are cleared, and you receive an additional $2 million. Lily stood and walked to the window, staring down at the bustling streets of Manhattan. People rushed about their ordinary lives, blissfully unaware of sinister offers from mysterious millionaires. "Why me?" she finally asked. "Surely there are thousands of women who would say yes to this." Mrs. Patterson, until now icy and emotionless, softened for just a moment. "Mr. Hartwell was impressed by your volunteer work at the Arts Center. He believes you have the intelligence and dignity required, and that you don't seek fame or constant access to his wealth." Lily almost laughed. Theodore Hartwell had been watching her life, probably knew about her student loans, her barista job, the fact she'd never been in a serious relationship, everything that made her the perfect candidate for his strange arrangement. "I need time to think," Lily said, turning back to the lawyer. "Of course," Mrs. Patterson replied, handing over a business card. "You have 24 hours. Mr. Hartwell does not tolerate delays." That evening, Lily sat cross-legged on her worn bed, the contract before her. Her younger brother, Kevin, knocked lightly. "Was that an interview?" he asked, hope in his voice. He was 17, aware that the family was in trouble, but not fully understanding the depth of the crisis. "Something like that," Lily said tersely, hiding the papers. "Don't worry." "You're not a kid, Lily," Kevin said, his face serious beyond his years. "I could put college on hold, get a job." Absolutely not, she interrupted firmly. You go to college in the fall, I promise. After Kevin left, Lily lingered in front of the mirror. The woman staring back looked different. Older maybe, but there was a new resolve in her eyes. She picked up her phone and dialed the number on Mrs. Patterson's card. I'll do it, she said when the lawyer answered, but I want to meet him first. Mrs. Patterson's reply was immediate. Tomorrow at 12, in Mr. Hartwell's penthouse office on the top floor. The next day, Lily stood in the finest dress she owned, a dark blue gown bought on sale for a cousin's wedding, before the grand Hartwell building. A guard checked her ID and silently directed her to a private elevator that whisked her straight to the penthouse. With every floor the elevator climbed, tension coiled tighter in Lily's stomach, as if something cold and heavy was growing inside her with each passing number. When the doors finally slid open, she braced herself for the usual office scene. But instead, she was met with something entirely unexpected. A private art gallery. Paintings and sculptures filled the space, each piece illuminated with painstaking precision, like a museum designed to awe. Miss Morgan, came a deep, smooth voice from the shadows across the gallery. Thank you for coming. Theodore Hartwell was nothing like she expected. Tall, lean, streaks of silver threading through dark hair, eyes. Piercingly blue, he seemed more like a celebrated actor than the cold businessman she had imagined. His tailored suit hugged his broad shoulders perfectly. As he approached, she caught a hint of expensive cologne, subtle but intoxicating. Your collection is impressive, Lily said, nodding toward a small abstract painting. That's Nakamura, isn't it? A flicker passed across his eyes. Surprise, maybe. You have an eye for contemporary art, he observed. I'm an art student, she reminded him, though I imagine you already knew that. Correct, Theodore nodded. With a subtle gesture, he invited her deeper into the gallery, toward a lounge bathed in sunlight from floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Please, have a seat. Lily perched carefully on the edge of a leather chair, her back rigid. Before I sign anything, she said, I need to know why, the real reason, not the stories your lawyer wrote up. Theodore paused, then smiled, a narrow, controlled smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Straight to the point, he said. All right? The truth, Miss Morgan, is that I need to create the image of a successful man to close a deal with a very traditional Japanese corporation. My bachelor reputation has become a problem. You mean New York's most eligible bachelor? Lily challenged, her lips twitching in a faint smirk. She had studied his biography carefully the night before. Tabloids exaggerate, he brushed off. But in essence, yes. And you can't just date someone, Lily pressed on, her smile teasing. Dating builds expectations. A marriage with clear terms, it's simpler. He leaned forward, voice low, serious. I'm offering you and your family financial security in exchange for your discretion in public appearances. Nothing more. Lily inhaled deeply. If I agree, I have conditions. Theodore raised an eyebrow, clearly unused to negotiating. I finish my studies. I keep my friends, my hobbies, and we need to get to know each other enough that it looks real to everyone, including your Japanese partners. Expecting resistance, she was surprised when Theodore nodded slowly. Reasonable, he said, pausing. I'll add that you'll need a wardrobe suitable for the wife of a man in my position. Lily flushed, suddenly aware that her dress looked like a bargain find. Do we have a deal? He asked, extending his hand. Lily looked at his hand, then at his face. This wasn't the life she had imagined, but for her family, for Kevin's future, she could do it. For 1 year. We have a deal, she said, taking his hand. His grip was warm and firm, and for a fleeting moment, she felt an unexpected spark, a subtle connection that caught her off guard. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Hartwell, Theodore said, expression unreadable. Neither of them knew that their carefully crafted arrangement was about to become the most unpredictable adventure of their lives. 3 days later, after signing away a year of her life, Lily found herself in Theodore Hartwell's penthouse, surrounded by boxes holding her modest belongings. The place was breathtaking. Clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, and minimalist furniture that likely cost more than her entire education combined. Your room is this way, said Maggie, the housekeeper, a warm-faced woman in her 60s who seemed genuinely pleased to have another guest in the vast apartment. "Mr. Hartwell has prepared everything for you." Lily followed Maggie down a corridor lined with abstract paintings and stopped at a door that opened into a suite larger than the first half of her own home. One wall was dominated by a king-size bed. Near the window were chairs and a table with a sweeping view of Central Park. In the walk-in closet, already filled with clothing, Lily didn't recognize a single thing that belonged to her. "Mr. Hartwell took the liberty of picking out a few suitable pieces for you," Maggie explained, noticing Lily's puzzled expression. "He mentioned you'll be attending the Wilson Foundation ball tomorrow evening." "What?" Lily spun around sharply. "Tomorrow? I just arrived." Maggie smiled sympathetically. "Mr. Hartwell moves quickly, dear. If you'd like, the bathroom is there. You can freshen up. Mr. Hartwell will be home by 7 for dinner." Left alone, Lily wandered through the closet, fingers brushing over silks, cashmeres, and fabrics she could barely name. There were no price tags, but she easily recognized brands that had always been out of reach. In one corner, she found clothing closer to her own style. Comfortable jeans, simple tees, even a few pairs of Converse sneakers in different colors. The gesture was remarkably thoughtful, though Lily wasn't sure if it was Theodore's idea or his personal stylist's. At precisely 7, Lily made her way to the dining room, wearing one of her own dresses, a small act of rebellion, perhaps. Theodore was already seated, focused on his tablet. He glanced up at her as she entered, assessing her choice without a word. "Miss Morgan," he said, setting the tablet aside, "I trust everything is to your satisfaction?" "The room is stunning," she admitted, sitting across from him. "But I wasn't expecting to be thrown straight into high society events." "The Wilson Foundation ball is an excellent opportunity to introduce you publicly," Theodore explained as Maggie served a delicate first course. "No pressure. It's for charity, and the press will be exactly where we need them. They'll capture our first appearance together, and the story begins." "What story?" Lily asked cautiously, tasting her dish. "It's delicious, by the way." "A story of a whirlwind romance, a sudden union kept secret until today," he said, as if reciting a business plan. "We met at your art exhibit in the REU local gallery. I was captivated. After a series of secret rendezvous, we were married over the weekend." Lily nearly choked on her food. "We're already married?" "The paperwork was filed yesterday," Theodore replied with the same calm. "I assumed Mrs. Patterson explained the timeline." "She explained that we would get married, not that it would happen while I'm still unpacking." Lily slammed her fork down harder than intended. "And my family," she pressed. "Don't you think they'll find it strange that their daughter got married without telling them?" Theodore's expression softened slightly, the first crack in his businesslike exterior. "I ensured your parents and brother were provided with the proper information. They'll receive documentation confirming all obligations are settled, along with a generous wedding gift. Their silence is part of our arrangement." Lily stared at him, trying to understand the logic behind every move. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "Exactly how I built my company," he said, calm as ever, anticipating problems before they arise. "And what about us?" Lily gestured between them. "If we're going to convince anyone that we're really married, we at least need to look like we're familiar with each other. Right now, we're strangers at a business dinner." Theodore paused, setting down his wineglass, and for the first time, the air between them felt charged, not businesslike, but unpredictable, a storm waiting to break. "You're right. You really are," she said. "Here's a start. Call me Lily, not Miss Morgan, and maybe tell me something about yourself that's not in that Forbes profile I read." A faint smirk crossed his face. "You've been researching me, naturally. Wouldn't you do the same?" "Exactly," she replied. He leaned back in his chair. "All right, Lily. I collect first edition books. I can't stand the smell of vanilla, and I haven't taken a real vacation in 8 years." Lily couldn't help but smile. "That's something. My turn. I bake at night to relieve stress. I've never traveled abroad. And I'm terrified of jellyfish." "Jellyfish?" Theodore raised an eyebrow. "I told you, it's irrational." For the first time since they met, Theodore's smile was genuine. His face softened, transforming from intimidating to almost charming. "I suppose we all have our quirks." The rest of dinner passed much more easily. Lily asked questions. Theodore answered, carefully choosing his words as he spoke about his business, his art collection, and the high society circles they were expected to navigate. She noticed he avoided any talk of family or past relationships. After dinner, Theodore led her to his office, a pristine space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city. "I've prepared a file for you," he said, handing her a sleek tablet. "Everything you need to know. Details about my business, the people you'll meet, our official story. Memorize it all." Lily took the tablet, feeling more like an operative preparing for a secret mission than someone entering a fake marriage. "Will there be a test?" Theodore didn't laugh, but something softened in his eyes. "The Nakamura painting you recognized. It reminded me of your own works." Caught off guard, she asked, "You've seen my paintings?" "Of course. I wouldn't offer this deal without knowing everything about you." He turned to his desk. "Your use of color is unusual, vibrant. You have real talent." Lily felt her cheeks flush at the unexpected compliment. "Thank you. Your portfolio from the Cultural Center. There was a painting of a woman staring out a window. Such loneliness I couldn't not notice it." "Morning light," Lily whispered, surprised he had noticed. "Yes." Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Lily felt a strange flutter in her chest. But the moment shattered when Theodore's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, then returned to business mode. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be intense. I arranged for a stylist to help you prepare for the gala at 3. As Lily turned to leave, he added, "And Lily, tomorrow night we won't just be playing roles. To everyone else, we'll be madly in love. Can you handle that?" She straightened her shoulders, determination replacing the uncertainty in her voice. "And you?" The challenge hung in the air, unanswered, as she left the room. Back in her suite, Lily opened her laptop and called her brother. His concerned face filled the screen. "Lily, Mom and Dad say you married Theodore Hartwell. What the hell's going on?" "It's complicated, Kev," she said, trying to sound steadier than she felt, "but it's all going to work out." "Did he make you do this?" Kevin demanded, his protective instinct kicking in. No, it's a mutual agreement." She couldn't tell him the whole truth, not with the confidentiality agreement she'd signed. "I'm fine, really. Dad's business issues are under control, and your student fund is safe." Kevin studied her face carefully. "Are you really okay? Because I could fly out and what? Challenge a billionaire to a duel?" Lily laughed, warmth spreading through her at her brother's worry. "I promise everything's fine. It's my choice." After convincing Kevin, Lily ended the call and sank onto the luxurious bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would step into the spotlight as Mrs. Theodore Hartwell, pretending to be madly in love with a man she barely knew. She picked up the tablet Theodore had given her and began reading, determined not to fail in this strange new role. Whatever game she had agreed to play, she was going to win. Though she wasn't entirely sure what winning meant in a fake marriage with New York's most enigmatic millionaire. "Hold still, please," whispered Vivian, the French stylist, securing another pin into Lily's intricately styled hair. Perfection requires patience. Lily sat obediently in the guest bathroom-turned-improvised salon as Vivian and her team worked for hours, tweaking, polishing, and perfecting until she barely recognized herself in the mirror. Nearby hung the emerald green gown Theodore had chosen, a silk and embroidery masterpiece likely worth more than her father's car. At first glance, Lily had almost recoiled at the daring neckline and exposed back, but Vivian assured her it was elegance, not scandal. "There," Vivian said, stepping back to admire her work. "Mr. Hartwell will be pleased." Lily studied her reflection as the team packed up. The woman staring back was refined, flawless, and completely unlike the art student who had spent most of college in paint-stained jeans. Her dark hair was styled to accentuate her cheekbones, and light makeup highlighted her deep brown eyes and full lips. "Remember," Vivian advised before leaving, "chin up, back straight, smile as if you're hiding a delicious secret." Alone, Lily carefully slipped into the gown, marveling at how perfectly it fit. A soft knock at the door made her jump. "Miss Morgan," called Maggie, "Mr. Hartwell asked me to deliver this before the gala." Opening the door, Lily found the housekeeper holding a black velvet box. Inside lay a breathtaking emerald and diamond necklace, accompanied by matching earrings. "Oh my God," Lily whispered, running her fingers over the sparkling stones. "I can't wear this. It must cost a fortune." "Better not think about it, dear," Maggie said with a mysterious smile. "Just consider it a prop for your role tonight." 40 minutes later, Lily descended the staircase and saw Theodore in the hall, checking his watch. As she approached, the perfectly calm expression on his face flickered for a moment, something that might have been recognition, or even a hint of genuine admiration in his eyes. "You look—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Appropriate." Lily held back a sharp retort. No romantic compliments, exactly as she expected. "The jewelry suits you," he added, letting his gaze linger on the emeralds at her neck. "Thank you for lending them," Lily said, nervously touching the necklace. "They're not temporary," he said, checking his watch again. "Consider this your first official gift as Mrs. Hartwell. The car's waiting." In the elevator, Theodore turned sharply to her. "We need to set physical boundaries for tonight." "Boundaries?" she asked, confused. "The newlywed couple must show physical affection," he explained, as if outlining a business strategy. "I'll place my hand on your lower back when I lead you. We need to look comfortable when touching, holding hands, maybe a cheek kiss, nothing more." Lily stared at him, caught between laughter and disbelief. "You're seriously mapping out a route for the PDA?" "I'm setting the parameters," he replied with a cold, unwavering precision. "Has no one ever told you how incredibly romantic you are?" She couldn't hide her sarcasm. Theodore smirked faintly. "Not recently," he admitted. "Look," Lily said as the elevator reached the lobby. "I know how to pretend to be in love. Just follow my lead. I acted in theater back in school." His brow arched in curiosity, but their discussion was cut short by the arrival of the limousine. On the way to the gala, Lily stole glances at Theodore. In his perfectly tailored tuxedo, he looked like he had stepped straight out of a luxury watch commercial. Handsome, polished, untouchable. Yet, there was something in the way he occasionally drummed his fingers on his knee, betraying a flicker of nervousness beneath his composed exterior. "You do this often, don't you?" she asked, her voice curious. "Why do you look tense?" Theodore's eyes flicked to her, a flash of surprise crossing his face, as though he hadn't expected the question. "I attend events like this all the time. That doesn't mean I enjoy them." "What about you? What do you enjoy?" Caught off guard, Lily hesitated, then answered carefully. "Solving complex problems, creating something that lasts." He considered her words, and silence. "Well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad," Lily replied with a small smile. "I promise not to make noise near the penthouse." To her surprise, Theodore laughed, a short, husky chuckle, rare and unpracticed. The brief warmth in that sound broke through his usual mask of indifference, and Lily couldn't help but smile in return. But the moment shattered as the limousine pulled up. The historic building was bathed in floodlights. Photographers lined the red carpet, and elegantly dressed guests ascended the grand steps. "Ready?" Theodore asked, his face slipping back into its calm, detached mask. Lily drew a deep breath. "Ready as ever." The door opened. Theodore stepped out first, then extended his hand to her, guiding her gracefully onto the red carpet. The flashbulbs ignited immediately, photographers recognizing New York's most coveted bachelor, and now, apparently, a married man. "Mr. Hartwell, over here!" one shouted. "Theodore, who is this lady? When did you get married?" His hand found her waist, warm and steady through the thin fabric of her dress. He led her forward with the ease of a practiced professional, pausing for photos but offering no answers. At the top of the steps, a persistent reporter shouted, "Is it true you secretly got married last weekend?" Theodore stopped and turned to Lily, his expression soft, almost reverent. In that instant, he became an entirely different man. "Some things are too precious to share with the world immediately," he said, his voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. Then, with a tenderness that felt wholly genuine, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her lips. The unexpected contact sent a shiver through her body, but years of theatrical training took over. She returned the kiss lightly, then looked at him with an expression of affection that, she hoped, seemed convincing. The photographers erupted, capturing a moment destined for gossip sites across the internet. Theodore's hand tightened slightly at her waist as he led her inside, leaning toward her ear. "Well played," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "You too," she replied, her heart still racing from the sudden kiss. "But next time, give me a warning." "Spontaneity sells the story better," he answered with a slight smile. Inside, the ballroom gleamed with luxury and influence. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables adorned with intricate floral arrangements, while a string quartet played soft, elegant music in the corner. Waiters glided through the crowd, carrying champagne and hors d'oeuvres, while New York's elite mingled and forged connections. Theodore Hartwell, alive and well, a statuesque woman in her 50s, approached, her critical gaze flicking over Lily. "So the rumors were true. Finally caught you." Theodore nodded politely. "Allow me to introduce my wife, Lily Hartwell. Lily, this is Diana Rothwell, chairwoman of the Wilson Foundation." "Wife?" Diana's eyes sharpened. "Darling, tell me, how did you manage to tame the most fiercely commitment-averse bachelor in New York? I've known Theodore since he bought his first company, and never in my life did I think I'd see this day." Lily smiled, sensing the subtle test in Diana's tone. Sometimes the right person appears when you least expect it. "And where did Theodore find you?" The question carried the faintest edge of tension. Before Lily could answer, Theodore wrapped an arm around her waist. "First, I was drawn to her art, then to her. Some connections are instant." The possessive gesture and the unexpected warmth in his voice surprised her, but Lily leaned naturally into his embrace. "How delightful," Diana said, curiosity flickering in her eyes, restrained by etiquette. "You must join me at my table." The next 2 hours blurred into a whirlwind of introductions, pointed questions, and carefully measured answers. Theodore remained close, his hand rarely leaving Lily's back or arm, occasionally finishing her sentences as if they had known each other for years, not just days. Lily played the part of the newly in love bride so convincingly that even she found herself laughing at the right moments and casting calculated, admiring glances at Theodore. Yet when he spoke of her paintings or volunteer work with genuine respect, the admiration in her eyes wasn't entirely an act. When Theodore stepped away briefly to speak with a business partner, Lily slipped onto the terrace to catch her breath. The night was cool, the city below a glittering web of lights. "Not a fan of crowds?" a voice called from behind. She turned to see an attractive man in his 30s, eyes warm and a hint of a smile on his lips. "Just needed a moment alone," she replied. "You're Theodore Hartwell's new wife?" he asked. "I'm Ben Mitchell, a friend of the Rothwell family. I must admit, you're not what I expected." "What were you expecting?" Lily asked, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "Someone like his usual companions, models, socialites, or—" Ben studied her carefully. "You seem real. Something fresh in all this." "Thank you, I think," Lily laughed softly. "I'll warn you in advance. Theodore has a reputation. Brilliant businessman, but—" Ben hesitated. "His relationships tend to be brief and strictly business." Before Lily could respond, she felt someone's presence behind her. Theodore's hand rested on her waist, a subtle but unmistakable mark of possession. "Mitchell," Theodore said coolly, "I see you've met my wife." "Just introduced myself," Ben replied, his smile light but not reaching his eyes. "Congrats. Finally settled down." "Thank you," Theodore said, his tone leaving no room for argument. As Ben walked away, Theodore turned to Lily. "We should go back inside." "He was just being friendly," Lily said, caught off guard by the tension between the two men. "Mitchell has his own agenda," Theodore replied, enigmatic, "and not everyone here is pleased with our union. Some are looking for cracks in our story." Back in the hall, Lily felt the weight of curious eyes and whispered conversations. Acting a part was one thing, but navigating a world of wealth, hidden motives, and power games was entirely another. Theodore must have sensed her unease because he leaned closer. "You're doing fine," he murmured. "Just one more hour." His calm confidence and quiet support steadied her, helping her gather herself. Lily nodded, straightening her shoulders and confidently placing her hand in his, as if they had known each other far longer than a few days. Walking through the hall, she began to notice something curious. When Theodore spoke about his business or interacted with senior partners, He was the same cold, controlled executive she'd met on day one. But when he introduced her or talked about their relationship, another Theodore emerged, a version with warmth and sometimes even a trace of humor. It was during a conversation with an older art enthusiast that Lily caught a glimpse of this other side. The woman spoke about a small museum at risk of closing, and in Theodore's eyes there was genuine concern, not the polite mask he wore in most meetings. Perhaps the Hartwell Foundation could help, he suggested, and his voice carried real sincerity. By the time they left the gallery, Lily's feet ached from unfamiliar heels, and her face was sore from the constant smile she had to maintain all evening. In the privacy of the limousine, Theodore loosened his bow tie and exhaled with relief. "You made quite an impression tonight," he said, surprising her with the straightforward compliment. "Everyone was impressed." "I suppose my experience in small-town theater came in handy," Lily replied, slipping off her shoes with a sigh of relief. Theodore studied her for a long moment. "You have a gift for reading people, adapting. That's invaluable. In the arts or in a fake marriage?" Lily teased, unable to resist a hint of irony. His lips twitched and he offered a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Looks like both," he said. On the ride back to the penthouse, the elevator carried them in comfortable silence. Tonight had shifted the balance between them. It wasn't quite friendship, yet it wasn't just business anymore. When they reached their floor, Theodore turned to her. "Tomorrow's papers will already be talking about our kiss. The narrative is officially live." "Perfect," Lily said, suddenly feeling drained from the performance. "Mission accomplished." "Indeed," he said, slowing his words slightly, then added, "The emeralds suit you. You should wear them again." It was as close as he could get to a personal compliment. "Thank you. Good night, Theodore." As she headed to her room, his voice stopped her. "Theo? What?" "My friends call me Theo," he said, his expression unreadable in the dim hallway. "If we're going to convince people we're in love, you should use my name too, like everyone else." "You have friends, Theo?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Instead of taking offense, he gave a subtle smile, and his face softened. "Touché, Lily. Good night." Once her door closed, Lily leaned against it, processing the surreal evening. She had spent hours pretending to be passionately in love with a man she barely knew, and somehow they had convinced an entire room of discerning New Yorkers. What unsettled her most was realizing that the line between performance and reality was beginning to blur, when his hand felt natural on her back, when his kiss sent a shiver through her, when she glimpsed something genuine beneath his carefully constructed facade. Gently, Lily removed the emeralds and placed them in their velvet box, pondering which version of Theodore Hartwell, no, Theo, was real, and why she suddenly so desperately wanted to find out. The next morning, after the gala, Lily scrolled through news headlines on her tablet. "Bachelor no more. Hartwell's secret wedding shocks Manhattan, the kiss that proves it's real. Hartwell and his new bride steal the show." "Looks like you found the reviews," Theodore said, entering the kitchen in casual attire. The performance was well received. 5 stars, apparently," Lily replied. "Although page 6 is betting on how long it lasts. Skepticism is predictable." "We'll convince them," he said, glancing at his watch. "Tomorrow we have dinner with Jonathan Tanaka. He's the son of Hiroshi Tanaka, head of a major Japanese corporation." "A deal," Lily nodded, remembering the true purpose behind their performance. "Yes, family traditions matter deeply to the Tanakas." "Could you review information on Japanese business etiquette?" "I did last night," Lily replied, earning a surprised look from Theodore. "Did you know it's considered rude to stick chopsticks vertically into rice? It reminds them of incense used in funerals." Theodore raised an eyebrow slightly. "Impressive." After he left for work, Lily wandered through the penthouse and discovered a fully equipped art studio, complete with a note. "I thought you'd want to continue your work." The gesture was unexpectedly thoughtful. Later, she visited the Metropolitan Museum. Her phone vibrated, a message from her brother. "I see the pictures. Either you're the world's greatest actress, or there's something you're not telling me," Lily replied. "Just doing what's necessary." "How's home?" "Dad seems like a different man. Whatever deal your new husband made, it worked." That evening, Exploring the empty penthouse, Lily discovered Theodore's shelves, lined with classic novels. In The Great Gatsby was a note: Teddy, on your 16th birthday, dream big, but remember what truly matters. Love, Mom, Teddy. The diminutive nickname seemed so out of place next to the strict, commanding man she now knew. Find anything interesting? Theodore's voice startled her as she entered his office. Sorry, I shouldn't have. It's fine. After all, we are husband and wife. He noticed her gaze linger on a photo of him with children. That's a STEM program we support in underprivileged schools. You look happy, Lily observed. These kids worked incredibly hard. Is that one of the reasons you started your foundation? Partly. My parents believed in education. After they passed, continuing their vision felt essential. How old were you? She asked softly. 22, a car accident. Suddenly I was running the company and carrying on their legacy. His tone was matter of fact. That's a lot of responsibility for someone so young. We adapt to what life demands, he said, just like you are now. They shared a late dinner from a Thai restaurant, exchanging questions about favorite movies, music, and personal stories. Why art? Theodore asked. What drew you to it? My mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 9. During her treatment, a hospital volunteer taught me to paint. It was the only time I felt I could control anything. Did she recover? Yes, thankfully. 12 years in remission. And what motivates you beyond success? She asked. To create something lasting. My parents built a company believing business could be both profitable and meaningful to society. So that's why this Japanese deal is so important to you? Partly. It's also personal. Proof to those who thought I was too young and inexperienced to run the company after my parents died. And now you need a wife to close the deal, Lily concluded. Theodore met her gaze. Now I need you. The next evening, they dined with Jonathan Tanaka and his wife May at an exclusive Japanese restaurant. Theodore says you're an artist, Jonathan said to Lily. Mostly oils and mixed media, she replied, earning an approving nod from Theodore. When Jonathan expressed surprise at their sudden wedding, Lily explained lightly, I insisted we keep our relationship private. In the art world, people can be judgmental if a rising artist is connected to someone like Theodore, he added, his finger tracing the back of her hand. It's one of the things I admire most about her. They shared their rehearsed story about meeting at the Arts Center, with Lily adding charming details that made the Tanakas laugh. After Jonathan stepped away, May leaned toward Lily. You have to tell me your secret for enchanting Theodore Hartwell, she whispered. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you, Lily replied softly. I don't think it's really a secret, Lily added, feeling a blush rise to her neck. Sometimes people just find each other. You really love him, don't you? May asked bluntly. The question caught Lily off guard, but Theodore's return saved her from answering. As they left, Jonathan said, My father's coming next week. He's looking forward to meeting the woman who transformed New York's most devoted bachelor. In the car on the way home, Theodore praised her performance. You were amazing. Jonathan texted me. His father will support the deal. May said she's never seen you look at anyone the way you look at me, Lily reminded him. Then I must have played my role well, he replied after a pause. Back at the penthouse, Theodore thanked her again. Your instincts with the Tanakas were flawless. Just doing my job, she said lightly, but the words felt hollow. What you told May about my work with the foundation wasn't necessary, he noted. I know, she replied simply. But it's true, isn't it? Yes, he finally admitted. It's true. When Lily closed the door to her room that night, she realized the evening's charade felt less like a game. Theodore's touches were becoming genuine, his smiles natural, and more unsettlingly, her own reactions to them. It's just a business agreement, she whispered to herself. Don't confuse the act with reality. But the line between their carefully constructed fiction and the truth was blurring, and neither of them was entirely ready to redraw it. The next morning, Theodore studied her outfit as she paused in the kitchen with a coffee in hand. No way, he said firmly. What's wrong with what I'm wearing? You can't meet Hiroshi Tanaka in jeans, even designer ones. Rolling her eyes, Lily replied, I'm not meeting him today. I'm going to the art center to teach my class. The surprise on Theodore's face made her add, Just because I married you doesn't mean I've forgotten my commitments. Later, the hall erupted in applause as Theodore addressed the audience. This project wouldn't exist without the vision and dedication of my wife, he said, who has shown me that art isn't just about beauty. It's about connection, expression, and transformation. Lily squeezed his hand, her heart full as she scanned the room. Kevin was there with his fiancée, both now working on the Hartwell Foundation's educational initiatives. The Tanakas were seated at a table up front, Hiroshi retired, but still a cherished family friend. In the corner, entertained by Maggie, was 3-year-old Claire Hartwell, already showing her mother's artistic talent and her father's determination. From the most unexpected beginnings come the greatest joys, Theodore concluded, raising his glass toward Lily, to partnerships that turn into love stories. As applause erupted once again, Lily leaned toward her husband. "Not bad for a marriage that started with a contract," she whispered. "The fine print was always there," Theodore replied with a smile. "We just needed time to read it properly." And as they shared a kiss, still carrying the magic of their unusual beginning, both silently realized a simple truth. Sometimes what starts as a business arrangement is actually the universe's most creative way of writing a love story.